Story follow state. What do I mean by story follow state? So that's a Deb Dana concept. Story follow state means that the thoughts in our mind follow the state of our body, of the autonomic nervous system. Okay, cool. Well, I don't want to do the thumbs up. I don't know. So the story means the thoughts in our mind. So the story could be, cool. I did a thumbs up again, darn it. The story could be memories. The story could be explanations. It could be memories. Did I say that already? Images that pop in our mind. So story is basically what does our brain come up with? That's what we mean by story. Porges uses the word narrative also, I believe. So the story is a reflection of what state that we're in, of what polyvagal state that we're in. So if we're in a shutdown state, the shutdown state is very empty, lonely, depleted. It's very folded. Like physically, it can look very folded. Dissociation, like disconnection from the body or from the moment, can be a part of shutdown. So the stories in our mind are going to reflect that. And the thoughts in our mind are going to change based on what state that we're in. So if we're in a shutdown state, the story could be about, it's commonly about how worthless somebody is, or how they messed everything up, or nobody likes them, nobody loves them. It's very lonely, very, very lonely, hopeless, and empty. So the stories will match the state that we're in. If we're in a flight fight state, the flight and fight are both sympathetic, so they both have energy to them. They're mobilized, but flight and fight have different flavors of stories. So fight is aggressive, and you're encroaching on space. You're pushing somebody back or hitting. Like that's the basic idea, throwing things. But there's more aggression to the fight state, right? The fight sympathetic state. So the stories of the fight state are going to match that. And so stories around fight energy could be about how this other person is a blankety blank, right? The person who the person who cut in front of me in line is a jackass, right? Like, what's wrong with you? That's not you, but like these thoughts would go through our mind of like, well, how could you do that to me? Don't you see me here? You're an asshole. Like all those narrative stories come into our mind because we're in that fight state. If we're in a sympathetic flight, which is running away, it's creating space. Fight is about encroaching on, is about diminishing space, and flight is about creating space. It's getting farther away. So if we're in a flight energy, feelings of nervousness and anxiousness and worrying, our thoughts in the flight energy are going to be more about like who's out to get us, or the teacher doesn't like me, or I don't know, stuff like that. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, this person that my old friends don't like me, or they're talking about me behind my back. It has that, those kind of thoughts would probably follow the flight sympathetic energy. And then in the safe and social state, the thoughts are going to be matching the safe and social state. So more empathy, more understanding for the person that cuts us off in line. If we're in a safe and social state, our thoughts are going to be like, that was rude, but they might have something going on that day. And it's not about me. It's like they have their kids with them. The kids are being brats, and I can't be mad at them. And I understand. I've been there too. So those thoughts from the safe and social state about the same situation are going to be a lot different. Actually, depending on what state we're in, we'll take the same situation, and the thoughts will be different based on what state that we're in the polyvagal ladder. Isn't it also possible to have state to follow story? I think so. Yeah, with an asterisk. If we're using mindfulness to create new patterns of thinking and new stories, then our state then shifts accordingly. And generally, yeah, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. Yeah. So yeah, here's a clear example. So when I do my own self-regulation, or when I work with clients, something that when I see them tapping too much into that defensive energy and I'm losing them, or that's my story, I'm losing them. But basically they're going too deep into the defensive energy. What I will do is we'll often use a top-down approach to self-regulation. And that can be helping them, prompting them to remember something that they went through that was actually really positive, or where they had those feelings of connection or safety. So it's prompting from the mind. I'm saying, hey, remember that time you did this thing and you told me about what, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, yeah. And then I'll direct them to get more specific. I'll say, well, where was that? What time of day was that? Or how did you feel when held your grandson's hand in that moment, or whatever it was? We're creating, or we are recalling the story or the narrative, and we're using that as a safety anchor. So once we tap into it here, if we mindfully can do so, then when we remember something, or even create a brand new imaginative image in our mind or story, it's possible to feel that in our body. So yeah, at the top down is totally a possibility. That's the top. Exactly. Yeah. You got it. Yeah. That's top down. That's a really good one. I think that there's other top down approaches, like having a mantra, um, just, self-affirming words, saying positive things about yourself. And those are great. But what I'm describing, where it's the mindfulness piece of it, and you're experiencing something, like you're recalling something cognitively, but you're experiencing it in the body. That I think is a much better safety anchor if you have the time for it. I mean, it takes a moment. That could be a much better safety anchor than just trying to change your thoughts. So I think a lot of times we just try to change our thoughts, and we say, oh, I don't like this thought. I'll think this way instead. And it doesn't quite work out that way. It's not that easy. Maybe for some people they can. And if you've practiced that, and you've developed that, that could be helpful maybe. But if you're just starting out in the self-regulation process, then vividly recalling something where you did feel safe can be really helpful. Really, I think it'd be really, really helpful. And in therapy, what we do, I know I'm going on and on, but in therapy, the idea is we feel that defensive energy, and maybe we're getting sucked into it too much. And so as a therapist, I need to be able to notice that. Hopefully a client can too, but oftentimes it doesn't happen. So for me, I have to be able to gauge, okay, we got to come back to the present moment. And so then we use a safety anchor, and that could be like a memory, or it could be emotion, it could be a texture, it could be something they're doing. But usually, I mean, a lot of times it's something like wherever they're feeling the pain, like feeling into it, flexing, releasing. That could be really helpful. But we have the pain, and then we have a memory or a scenario that we already know has worked in the past, or will work in the future or in the present. And we go from the pain to this anchor, really feel it, and then go back to the pain and check in and see how we doing now. And they'll say it's still there, but not as bad. And then we keep doing the other thing, the safety anchor. And then we go back to the pain, and they'll say, yeah, it's not a huge deal anymore. And so the point is not to distract yourself. The point is not to ignore the pain. The point is to see that you can feel this pain, but self-regulate at the same time. You can feel this pain and not get sucked into it. You can feel this pain and have a different outcome. And that can help the nervous system to build a tolerance to the pain in the first place. But it also, I think, helps the individual with their confidence level, and to see like, oh, I can do this. I can go from this to this. It's possible. And that's what it feels like. I just did it with Justin. How do I do this on my own? And we talk about that too. Reaccessing a feel-good memory is better than reframing a triggering thought. That's that's a really good. You just reframed everything I said. I like that a lot. That's a great reframe there, Sandra. Yeah, I cannot reword that better than you just did. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. I'll add to it though. It doesn't have to be memory. It doesn't have to be memory. It can be, if we're doing top down, it can be something that you make up. If I'm not asking someone to remember something, I may be asking them to create something. And this is generally better to do before the problem, so that we already have it in our back pocket in case we need it. So yeah, I'll ask them to create a state of and a scenario of safety. And that's where typically people will think of things involving a forest, green, quiet, usually water is involved. And if I were to create my own, like that's pretty much, I'd just be hanging out by a slow moving stream in the forest with some shade in the daytime, and it's pretty damn quiet. Like that for me is in the moment, peaceful. So usually people come up with waterfalls, something like that, and they just create it. It hasn't happened before. And I tell them, like, I'll tell people to create something that would feel safe. And there's no monetary limit. There's no imaginative limit. Just create it. I don't care what it looks like. Just what would feel safe for you. And usually it involves those pieces. So I have a safe place in my inner visual I go to when I need it. Yes. Mine is the beach. Ooh, yeah. With my power animal. That's cool. There you go. Yeah. Beach would be a really good, same thing for me. Just hanging out on the beach, listening to the waves. Absolutely. So grounding. Like it's just so grounding. When I'm at home, I have the sweet sounds of the freeway over there and the refrigerator and the AC. These are the sounds that I get to ground myself to at home. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed in your own homes what sounds there are? Yikes, the freeway. It's not. It's not right next to me. But it's not super far either. Like you can still hear it. Yeah, I can still hear it, and it just drives me. Well, I mean, most of the time I don't notice it, but when I'm recording a podcast, I definitely notice how loud it is. Like, my God, that is really loud. In this room, I have, you see this panel right here? These are sound dampening panels, and I got them for the podcast, and they make a really, really, really big difference. So this room is the most quiet room in the house, just because of the podcast. But having these sound panels helps, but also just things like I can never point. There, that one. So having just like furniture, things that are padded and soft can help to absorb sound. Carpet, blankets, those things can absorb sound and help to reduce the echo in a room. But this room, when you walk into this, it is noticeably different. I still hear there's huge windows right here, so I still hear the traffic, unfortunately. But it is significantly quieter than the rest of the house. I really notice it. And then the AirPod Pros, when you put them on, they have two modes. They have sound transparency and like I think it's called sound dampening, something like that, or noise cancellation, and it works really, really well. Like if you really time to move. So if you want to like really cancel noise and just have these in, it works unbelievable. I was shocked at how well it works. It was actually pretty unsettling to because it cancels out the way that I would normally hear. It was really unsettling. I've gotten used to it now, but they work really well. My coffee's cold at this point. I'll still drink it though. I don't mind. I'll just pretend like I ordered a cold brew, you know? Not ordered, but made one at home. It's a top down approach. I'll just pretend. Give myself a new story. Yeah, I'll drop some ice in there. And it's like I had ice, yeah. Yeah.